something completely different.
I saw this here. Stephen A. Smith went on Gilbert Arenas' podcast, Gil's Arena, which is not a bad show. I'm not a big fan of the podcast where it's everyone sitting around the circle. I'm more of an audio radio guy, but I do like Gilbert Arenas' podcast. But Stephen A. Smith says that LeBron James's confrontation was BS and that it was weak. Here's the thing. He certainly didn't say that when he had his biggest audience on First Take. He kissed the ass of Disney and everybody. But then when you have a lesser audience in Gilbert Arenas' podcast, then you say it, you're a coward.
What do you make of LeBron confronting you in the aftermath of that situation?
I thought it was weak.
I think it's weak that you're going on a podcast to say this and not First Take.
I thought it was some bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
in the moment, I knew that I was listening to a father.
Yeah, it's a pretty good point.
Here's what happened. I'm sitting courtside, and I stand up, and then I got my head turned. And then I turned back around, and a lot of people thought this was the end of the game or something like that. This was in the third quarter.
Oh, jeez.
Crazy.
And apparently, LeBron had...
I love these podcasts where they don't realize that they're being heard into a microphone. You can definitely tell they're not radio people. Shut up and let the guy talk.
Walked out of the timeout, and I turn around, and he's right here in my face. He said, yo, you got to stop talking shit about my son.
Yeah, but your son's a professional player, and I thought he was one of the best, as you said, one of the best players in the draft. So that means that he shouldn't just be able to, not take criticism. I've worked with people that got in jobs because of their dad, and they're always so freaking untouchable, and it's like, God, I don't care.
You got to stop fucking with my son. That's my son. That's my son. And I was like, what? He said, nah, fuck that. I said, yo, let's talk later.
Yo, let's talk later.
He's like, fuck that. Nah, fuck that. You got to stop fucking with my son. And I said, all right, dog.
I don't.
And he walked off. So I remember during a timeout in the first quarter, seeing Bronny.
Again, this is just a nepotism of I got my kid the job, and all of a sudden he's getting criticized. I like LeBron. I'm very similar to Dave Portnoy's opinion of LeBron. Like, he's an all-time great, but God, is he a baby.
Bronny looked over at me.
Bronny's probably a little entitled. If that's your father, you like father like son.
And he had this sad look on his face. And I'm imagining Pop saw that shit. It hit him.
Yeah. I love how he's saying this on a podcast. Gilbert Arenas' podcast probably has millions of listeners, but more people watch First Take and ESPN, and he cowarded on ESPN when he had all the bosses telling him. But then when he's with his homies on Gilbert Arenas' podcast, then you say this, that means you're a phony.
And he couldn't hold it, and he rolled up on me.
He's the type of guy that, like, once you leave the room, he talks about you.
And so when I went on the air the next morning, first things first, believe it or not, I know this is shocking for people to believe.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any intentions on talking about it.
Shut the hell up, dude. Shut up.
Until I woke up that morning and saw that the shit had gone viral. Once the shit had gone viral, the bosses at ESPN, now you gotta talk about it. This is you and him. You gotta talk about it. I said, fine. So I go on the air and
kissed ass.
Said, the first thing that I'm going to do is establish that this was a father talking to me, not a player.
Yeah. But all this stuff you've said on Gilbert Arenas' podcast just now, you should have said there.
And that was what threw me off. And I was glad, even though I thought that he misrepresented the argument, I was glad he did. Because you see...
For what, ratings, and gives you something to talk about?
What he was really talking about, which was confirmed with his conversation with Richard Jefferson, is that I was talking about him as a father. And so what happens is...
Yeah, LeBron's very sensitive for someone that went to Diddy parties and cheats on his wife all the time and has girls sign NDAs.
Is that had he said that to me, then I wouldn't have been thrown off. I'd have came right back at him. Yes, I was. I was talking about you. You did this shit, which I'll get to in a second.
Yeah, he's really freaking wordy.
But because he didn't do that, I said, fine, you let it go. Mind you, I just agreed to my contract.
Yeah, brag about it a little more.
Courtside, that day was when it was announced. It's all over, everywhere.
We talked about
I be right?
Yeah.
It's a nationally televised game. The cameras are rolling, and I'm like, if I do anything, this is gonna be a scene. Now, we can sit up here in front all we want to and act like we don't work for somebody. Damn it, I work for Walt Disney. And if I had gotten into some shit with him at courtside right there at that moment, no matter how right I would have been, it would have been wrong. And I was like, I'm not gonna do this. But once I saw the tape of him talking to Richard Jefferson Saturday night in Boston, that was when I got really pissed because that was confirmation.
All right. Stephen A. Smith, you can't just run your mouth and think people won't talk about it. But at the same time, LeBron, you can't just think that you forced the league to have this terrible basketball player in the league and then all of a sudden not be talked about. I thought he was so good. They never do.
Happy hour. Happy hour.
It's time for Hoppe in the morning.
RyanHappyRadio.com.
Happy hour will be right back.
Whenever we're going outside, all I smell is poop.
In the nuts, and we'll call it a day.